Hey guys, welcome back to AFK Journey. In today's video, I wanted to take a look at some of the best end game teams currently known in the game at the moment. These are the teams that are sort of pushing the highest deficit. I want to show you how they're functioning. The best team that I have seen so far, and once again, this is just of what we know. Meta always changes as people find new things out, but the best one is currently using Scarlita. We'll look at options if you don't have Scarlita, which will be a lot of people, but I just want to show you guys what the end game, what the Trial of Abyss is forming to be like. And just in editing, I wanted to jump in here, and if you guys want to share teams around or anything like that, massive shout out to Analytica. They made like a team builder, so you can adjust any characters, the formation, you can adjust the artifacts and stuff like that, which is a really cool thing. So I just thought I'd share this with you guys. I'll leave a link in the description in case you guys want to use this thing to share some teams around. I think it's just a really nice aesthetic way to do it, and to like share teams with your friends and stuff like that. Now, like I mentioned, I also wanted to touch on something. In this video, we are going to be focusing on the Iran-based teams, one with Scarlita, one without Scarlita, because these are like the sort of most general high deficit pushing teams that I am seeing at the moment. But I will do another video covering a more free-to-play friendly team for those that haven't had luck on the Iran copies and stuff like that. So that one will come maybe tomorrow or something like that. But I want to go through the absolute peak teams first in this video, and then we'll go through the more budget-friendly options in the next video. But let's continue. Now, I've got to give Mizu a massive shout out once again for letting me on his account to demonstrate this stuff to you guys. As you can see, we're at about a 155 level deficit at the 437 versus 282. But keep in mind, we've got everything like maxed on this account. So maybe if you scale that down to a less invested account, you might be looking at around the equivalent of a 100 level deficit. It's always hard to gauge, but just keep that in mind. But this team has been working really well in all the communities I see people pushing with. This is kind of the team that has been that I've seen as the most optimal type team to use, and I want to go through it, and then once again we'll go through it without Scarlita, and obviously just the more investment you have into these teams, the better they're going to get, and so on and so forth. So the team that we're looking at here is using Granny, Damien, Huan, Iran, and Scarlita. Now, some substitutes you can do for this team is you can sub out Granny for Thorin. The reason Granny is better in this team, because this team, it revolves around keeping the enemies together, keeping your team alive, and then just letting Scarlita do her thing. Once she stays up, once she comes down, then she just starts smacking things and executing, and basically the rest of the team is just there to group and survive until that happens. And the reason Granny is better than Thorin in this one is because you don't need Thorin's damage. It doesn't matter. The idea is that you've got that much sustain on this team that you should be able to survive without needing a revive. So the two things that Thorin has, which are the damage and the revive, shouldn't really be needed in this team, and that's where Granny comes in, because she provides more sustain, because once again we just want the whole team to survive, and she also brings extra control, which once again helps the team survive, and that's why Granny is in this one. But Thorin, definitely a substitute for it. Then we look at Damien. Now Damien is here for haste, also sustain as well. We can swap Damien out for a Rowan in certain situations, and sometimes get some more optimal healing for more burst compositions. We do have Huan, which has the clutch heal below 50%, but we can chuck another one in there with Rowan as well, also for the energy regeneration and stuff like that. It's just like a case-by-case basis. But then your core ones is Huan is a fantastic healer, especially once you get her exclusive equipment and she can start her ultimate early. Then we have Iran in here as well, once again for that grouping, for that immobilization, fantastic unit, good secondary tank as well. And then obviously we have Scarlita. Now, like I said, the whole objective of this team is to keep everyone alive so that we can stall the enemy team until Scarlita uses her ultimate. So I want to show you guys this one, and then we'll go through some different options that we have. But once again, this account is pushing a pretty high deficit, so our other options may not work as well, and we may not get the victories. But the previous stage had something like a Sylvina as well, and that team, we just completely scrapped this. I went with like a Brutus front row to take the heat. I put a Granny back row to tank the Sylvina. Then I had like Floribel with Burial and Odie. It was like a completely weird composition, but it also had the Igor on that team, and you've just got to mix it around to see what you can get. And basically Odie was super clutch with targeting Igor to get the execute and get him out of the way early. Scarlita does have a similar effect, but once again, just some situations things work differently. Okay, so now let's jump in and take a look at the team. Now, as for artifacts, you can use the defensive one if you're struggling for survival. You can also use the control one. There are different options. I always default to haste and then adjust from there. So once again, this is a pretty high deficit. We might not actually clear it. We'll see how we go. We'll will use this team. If we have to adjust the artifacts or the positioning or something like that, we will see how we go. So once again, Scarlita, she rises up. Once again, we're trying to keep everyone alive until she comes back down. There goes Granny with her ultimate, providing that extra sustain and control, which is very, very valuable. Then we've got, okay, so Scarlita comes down. So we get those shreds. We get another good chunk of control. There we go, another Scarlita ult. As you can see, she just sends them flying off the battlefield. That execute is so fantastic. So let's see if she, we have lost our 2 tanks, so we could be in trouble here. All right, so once again, we didn't quite get it done just in time with the Scarlita. So now we've got to adjust this around. So there's a couple things I'm going to try. I'm actually going to try putting in the Rowan in this one. Once again, we want to have some sort of sustaining type unit. You know, in the other comps, which we'll look at, which revolves around using Carolina and Arden, they're more burst focused comps, whereas this one is once again more about the sustain. But if we get the extra energy regeneration, that might actually affect our sustain more than what we otherwise do with the Damien's haste, and that might actually keep us topped off better. So let's just go ahead and see what happens here. So Scarlita still floating, still floating. She should come down any second. There she goes, drops on them. There we go. Ult, boom, straight off the map. There you go. See you later. So we're getting pretty low. Iron's down. Granny's Scarlita is down as well. So once again, not quite getting where we needed to go with that one. So let's go ahead and retry again. This is where I am going to go ahead and I'm going to try and swap this to the control one. And these are the kinds of things you got to do. But once again, this is an incredibly solid team. Once again, it does require Scarlita. We'll take a look at teams without Scarlita in a minute. But also, once you do get here, once again, if you've got Odie's built up, like I said, Odie was super clutch in the previous stage for me. He got me across the line. So it is really dependent on where you're at and what you have on what is going to be optimal for you. So we're going to get that immobilization. Granny's just staying topped off. Unfortunately, once again, we didn't get it done. So we're going to have to retry again. So like I said, when you're at these deficits, it does become a tricky game. So let's go back and put the Damien in there. And we're going to see how this one functions now that we are using the controlling artifact. So it does come down to this where you just got to try a million things and just keep trying things. But like I said, this is a pretty tanky team that does pretty decent on survival. But sometimes, you know, you get to those deficits where it doesn't matter how built your account is. Eventually, you're going to get to a stage where the game gets hard. And it's just the way it is. So let's just see here. We got the ult coming from Scarlita. Dude, she died just before the ult. Okay. So it's looking like the haste one is our best option. I'm just going to cut. I'll come back when we get it done and I'll show you guys the replay and then we'll take a look at the other team options. Okay, there we go. We managed to clear it. A fairly similar type team that we ended up having with the Rowan in this one instead of the Damien. It just took a bunch of retries. I think we had the haste artifact as well, which you'll see in a second. As you can see, we do get genuinely good contribution from Iron and Granny in the damage sectors as well. Once again, the Scarlita is super clutch for dealing with those annoying units, especially with things like Igor and stuff like that. It's absolutely fantastic. So let's jump in. Let's take a look at this run. So once again, this was like the exact same team we were using. I literally just swapped the positioning of the Huon and the Scarlita. Sometimes that little tiny bit of RNG is enough to get you across the line. There's no logic behind it on exactly why it works, but just sometimes it does, and that's the way it goes. So once again, Rowan really helping with the energy regeneration. Once again, Damien, Rowan, depending on situation. As you can see, Scarlita super satisfying the way she just sends them flying off the battlefield. It's just one of those things. Like, watch this one. Boom. See you later. 2 of them. It's honestly one of the most satisfying animations in the game, I think, which is absolutely fantastic. So that is a look at the team that I am seeing as being the highest deficit pushing team at the moment. But once again, that is very unique whale territory because that involves Scarlita, who a lot of people will not be getting. Now, if we look at the other option that we are seeing heavily used, it is going to be still the Iron comp, but this is going to be Iron mixed with our Carolina. And then we're going to put the Arden in there as well for some extra damage. There are some substitute options. For this one, you can use Thorin. I sometimes really do like the Thorin for that extra life and also helping keep the Iron alive because Thorin does get the extra lives and this is more burst composition. So sometimes that Thorin is better. And then it just depends on the situation. Once again, you can take Granny in here, but sometimes Granny might have survival issues. And this is where Thorin's extra damage, because we are bursting and also his revival, can come in super handy. And this is the kind of team we are looking at. Now, for the final unit, we can look to something like Damien as well. It just depends on the situation, what we're using, on what we want to use for that final unit. You can also tech in units like Parisa. She is also decent in this kind of formation as well. There are a few other substitutes, but this is going to be like the core team that we look to. So let's go ahead. Let's just jump in. Once again, keep in mind, because this account has been pushing using the other team composition, I don't expect us to be easily clearing this stage, just due to the fact that we've been pushing to the deficit above what we otherwise would be pushing. So yeah, we're going to get kind of stuck, but you guys have probably seen this one. The thing about this team is it's not as great for PvE once we get to super high deficits, but it is fantastic for PvP and everything else as well, and those earlier lower deficit stages. But once again, this does start to fall apart a bit once we get to these harder stages, just due to the fact that it just doesn't quite have the throughput, and trying to get those enemies low is a lot harder. So let's just check this one out. Let's see. So we're going to get the Thorin charge. We're going to get a pretty decent charge out of Thorin. We might actually get a big chunk of damage here. Let's see. Unfortunately, Carolina not going to get the ultimate. The enemy, what's it called, just got in our way. You can see we did actually do a good chunk of damage. This is where, you know, you've still got to play it for the enemies that you have. So this is that team that does have the Cecilia, who is a very troublesome unit. So we got to keep that in mind as well when we look to things like this. So let's go ahead and just shift positioning a tiny bit. Let's see if we can get some extra manipulation on it with this team, just based on positioning. Unfortunately, we lost Thorin's first life. He's going to get a full charge though, which is fantastic. Unfortunately, that enemy Cecilia once again doing her thing. So this might be the situation where I can swap and I can use the control artifact, and then that might help me control that Cecilia to allow my team to do their thing before she gets her ultimate off, because she's going to be at the back row, I believe. Unfortunately, she does get the Rowan potion, which kind of bones us there, and she still gets that ultimate off. And so that is going to be the tricky one that we are going to have to deal with in this one, is that Cecilia, and she does seem to be the unit that wants to go ahead and eat that potion off of Rowan. So this is where, you know, we might be a little bit stuck here. So let's go ahead and, you know, let's maybe we try the Parisa. I don't think it's going to be as good in this combination, but let's just go ahead and see. Now the other thing, I don't think we have enough in this team, enough throughput to not bring the full combo. But because we are getting absolutely slapped by that Cecilia, it kind of makes me want to tech in a Vala to see if Vala can actually contribute anything to this team to stop that Cecilia. I don't know if Vala can actually target Cecilia in this team. Okay, so it's impossible for us to get her to target the Cecilia. So once again, that is where we get awkward, and this is where we have to get creative. But once again, let's just bounce back into this other composition. And once again, when you've been pushing with what is a better team, it's harder to use the worst team in these things to demonstrate stuff. But let's go ahead and let's slap this in and let's see how this functions. See if we can get something out of it. Let's go ahead and put in, where are we? Where are you? Huon. Yes, fantastic. And then we'll put in Scarlita. Let's see how this goes. Let's see if we can get something out of this one. Once again, we're going for that group straight away. Hopefully we can get a Granny ult without her dying. Unfortunately, she does get dropped. So now we're going to have to adjust that formation. Now, something that we can do here is we can try it like this. That does put them out of range of Rowan's potion. So we need Rowan to ult super early to get there. Granny does get the super fast ultimate. We could change it over and use the haste artifact as well for this one. Granny, unfortunately, getting dropped. So this is going to be a failed attempt. Okay, so in editing, I realized that I'd just gone away back to the original team and we were grinding it out, and we're just going to end it there. Like I said, the other option of the Iran with Carolina team is absolutely fantastic. But once again, that account has been pushing at a really high deficit utilizing the Scarlita team, which means it's hard to just go ahead and say this is easy clap, you defeat everything. But hopefully that gives you guys an idea of what teams are being used to really push those higher type deficits at the moment in the Trial of Abyss. Once again, this is more of the lucky slash paid slash later game free-to-play player who has those characters. For instance, Iron, you know, you're going to need that Mythic Plus. A lot of people won't have the Granny yet. A lot of people won't have the Huon yet. More people are focusing on getting those Thorin copies and stuff like that. But I am going to do another video, once again, going through a more budget-friendly team that I think will be a lot more people's main team in this mode, who are people who haven't had quite the luck of people that have, you know, all those units maxed out. So that'll be in the next video, or one of the next videos. But that is going to be it. Once again, if you want to use this team builder, I'll leave a link to it in the description. Fantastic thing. I love these community built tools and stuff like that. I think they're fantastic. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.